So a big part of this channel is exploring how you can build a better PC, and a big part of that comes down to improving noise levels and also system thermals. Today we're going to explore how to make your gaming PC a whole lot quieter, and you can think of this video as several pieces of content and hundreds of hours of testing condensed into one simple and easy to digest video. So whether your squad mates are complaining about your loud PC over Discord, or perhaps your PC is just a bit too loud for your likings, there's no doubt at least a couple of pieces of information here that you will find useful. By taking these pieces of information and stitching them together, I'm able to run a 9900K and a 2-slot 2080 Ti Founders Edition in the Ghost S1, the small form factor case, and basically run it at a reasonable thermal and noise levels, whereas at stock, that is basically inaudible and not something that's really doable. So starting off with the biggest tip that I can give you guys for a quieter gaming PC, and that's to simply upgrade your cooling. Whether that's for your GPU or CPU, if the heatsink that is attached to the processor is not strong enough, the fans mounted to it will need to spin faster to compensate. One prime example of this would be buying a loud blower style graphics card where it's not needed, instead of something more effective like a dual fan or triple fan card. The larger coolers are more effective at cooling, and so the fans don't need to spin as fast to keep the GPU temperatures down. If you do have the extra cash for one of those 2.5 slot or 3 slot graphics card options out there, they're really not a bad idea for reducing noise levels. Also, I'm not telling you to go out there and buy a new graphics card with a better cooler by any means. There are plenty of aftermarket options out there, like NZXT's Kraken G12 hybrid kit, which you can pair with a 120mm liquid cooler. For example, by mounting the 120mm hybrid cooler to the RTX 2080 Ti, we get a massive 12 dBA reduction in noise levels compared to the Founders Edition cooler at the same temperature. On the CPU side of things, it's a lot simpler. Just consider upgrading your CPU cooler. If you're already running one of the top of the line coolers like Noctua's NH-U12A or a large liquid AIO, stick around for the following tips. And that brings me to tip number 2, which is dialing in a custom fan curve. Most of the time, the default fan curve that is set for your GPU, CPU, or even your case fans are just not optimized for the best noise and thermal performance. It's very typical to see the fan curve for your case fans especially to be quite aggressive, especially when your PC is just doing nothing. The more case fans that you have in your system, the more important this tip is. Here's an example of a custom fan curve that could be quite effective for a mid-tower case with 3 or more fans. When it comes to customizing a fan curve for your CPU or GPU cooler, it really is going to be individual for each system, so I'd highly encourage you to play around a bit there. One thing I'll mention here is that it's totally okay to customize your fan curve in a way that has your components running a little bit warmer for a direct trade-off in reduced noise. For example, if you find that by lowering your fan curve that you actually raised your CPU temps by a few degrees, that is totally fine given that the CPU is still within a safe range. As a rough rule, I'd personally avoid letting most CPUs run above 85 degrees C for a prolonged period of time. The third tip follows directly on from this, and that's to upgrade your fans to just quieter fans. Most of the time, PC cases will come with cheap DC fans that are not only locked to a certain speed, but the fan itself is just not optimized for noise performance. Let's take a look at some testing I did over a year ago when we reviewed Noctua's NF812x25 120mm fan. When I used 2 of those fans at 1500 RPM on a 240mm radiator, we saw a significant reduction in noise levels compared to other aftermarket 120mm fans. If you are looking for the quietest 120mm fans available and you don't mind the color scheme, then definitely check these out. I'm actually using 2 of these fans in my system right now, keeping things nice and quiet on a 240mm AIO. These fans combined with a custom fan curve can yield huge reductions in noise levels. The fourth tip, and arguably the most underrated tip on the list, is to undervolt. This is probably the most effective tip on this list for reducing noise levels, seeing as it can reduce the thermals of your CPU and GPU by a significant amount. In fact, the only way that I'm able to run a 2-slot 2080 Ti at reasonable thermals and noise levels is by undervolting. So undervolting your GPU can be done in an application like MSI Afterburner Tuner or EVGA Precision X1, where you can view and edit the frequency and voltage curve. Essentially, you'll want to do what I'm doing here, lowering the voltage of the curve at a specific frequency. In this example, I'm telling the GPU to run at 1860 MHz at a voltage of 850 millivolts. And also, just like overclocking, how far you'll be able to take this will depend on your specific processor and the quality of silicon underneath. To clarify here, there's no reduction in performance under normal conditions, as all you are doing is reducing the voltage, the clock speed stays the same. Here's an example of what the 2080 Ti sounds like before and after undervolting in my system, as well as the change in temperature. And undervolting works just as well with the CPU, just be careful doing this with 3rd gen Ryzen CPUs as it is a bit funky there. And the last and final tip, which is only recommended if you've exhausted all of your previous options, is to upgrade your PC case. If upgrading your cooler and fans, undervolting, and dialing in a custom fan curve has not reduced noise levels to your liking, it is possible that your PC case is either too ventilated, allowing almost all of the internal noise to escape, or it's not ventilated enough, in which case your components are likely overheating and the fan speeds are excessive. It's up to you to work out which one that is and then make a choice in the opposite direction. For example, if your case is too ventilated and open and perhaps your case fans are too loud, you might prefer something a bit more closed off and sound dampening. Now, if all of these tips failed you somehow, then I would just recommend taking your PC off of your desk and relocating it somewhere else. Perhaps putting it under your desk or beside it. That way you won't be bothered by the noise as much. Ultimately, for a truly silent gaming PC, you'd be looking at extremely large passive heat sinks, or perhaps a custom loop with a very low fan RPM on the radiators. So those are 5 ways that you can significantly reduce the noise of your gaming PC, allowing you to game and work without distraction. As always, guys, a huge thanks for watching. Consider subscribing down below if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one.